So this is from a recorded talk on the occasion of Magha Puja. So this time now is the time for us to bring our minds to peace. So we've been developing the recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati. We also chanted the Avada Padimokkha sermon. And so this is a teaching that the Buddha gave on the occasion that 1,250 of his Arahant disciples gathered together. And all of these disciples, they had minds that were freed from the defilements, minds which were pure, that they no longer had to be born or die again in this cycle of samsara. And they had cultivated their hearts to the very highest level, to Nibbana. So we also come to cultivate our hearts, our minds, developing goodness, developing inner beauty. And we do this by following the teachings of the Buddha. And he gave these teachings for the benefit of all beings. And this Avada Padimokkha sermon, it's the heart of Buddhism. And he taught this so that those who came afterwards, those with faith in their hearts, faith towards the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, that they could practice following these teachings. And so the core of this teaching is to abandon all evil, to cultivate merit and skillfulness, and to bring the heart to purity and brightness and clarity. And so this ability that we have to train our minds so that they become clean and clear and bright and pure, it shows that the defilements and the heart, that they're two different things. And if they were one and the same thing, the mind and the defilements, then it would be impossible for us to make our minds pure. So it's like clean water, and if we put color into that water, green dye or yellow or red or black, then the water takes on that color. And so if we put in red dye, then the water becomes red. But if we separate that dye out from the water, then the water returns to its original clarity. So the same if we put yellow dye in, then the water takes on that yellow color, or green or black or blue. And so the water follows that color. It takes on that color. And when the two mix together, then they turn into the same color. But if they're separated out, then, or if we separate the water out from the color, or the color out from the water, and then the water becomes pure and clean as it was before. So our original minds are like this. They always have this nature of clarity and cleanliness to them. But when the sense impressions, the things that come in through the six senses, so for example, a form that enters in through the eye, or a sound that enters through the ears, or an odor that enters through the nose, a taste through the tongue, a tactile sensation through the body, or a thought or an emotion through the mind, then the mind gets mixed up with that emotion or that sense impression. So Luang Por Chah taught that at this point we need to establish our mindfulness and to look at our minds. And that when the mind is mixed up with these sense impressions, then we know that, and we have mindfulness that is up to speed with that. So it's able to separate these objects of the senses out from the mind itself. So even though we may have much work that we need to do, we need to receive a huge amount of different sense impressions throughout the day. And perhaps the time that we have for formal meditation is not much. But if we are able to bring our minds to peace in the midst of this frantic environment, then that is something that's not easy to do, and that shows that we are in a very good state, that our practice is very good. And so it's better for us to do this than it is to run away from these sense impressions. Because even though we may stay in a quiet place, but if we don't have wisdom, then we don't have intelligence. And when we meet with any of these sense impressions, then this will stir up the heart, it'll make it all chaotic. So the purpose of being in a peaceful external environment is to train our minds so that we can use what we've learnt in our daily lives. So the Buddha taught us to bring this skillfulness, kusala, to a state of completion. And kusala is really all good things, all goodness. So for us, we've come here today in the morning, we've been generous, we've made our offerings, we've sacrificed. And there are some people who sincerely sacrifice when they give. This is truly an act of giving. But there are also those for whom this gets sullied to some degree, that when they give, that after that the mind is very fast, it can change very quickly. And in no long time after they've given, then greed arises. And this makes the heart impure again. It brings up dirtiness into the heart. So the mind is something that we do need to train. Today is the anniversary of Magha Puja, that the Buddha gave this teaching to 1,250 of his arahant disciples, those who had already trained their minds well, those who had brought their minds to purity, following the fully self-awakened Buddha, the one who had defeated Mara and brought his mind to purity. So these Savaka, these awakened disciples, they practiced following his teachings until their minds too turned pure. And so today is a very important day. The Buddha gave this teaching, the Avada sermon. And this is a teaching that he gave just one time during his life. And so we should train our minds so that they meet with this peace, so they can meet with purity. And we do this by abandoning selfishness. And that's really what peace and purity is putting down this self-centeredness. Because right now we still have the self. We still have a me and a mine. But we use this self to create goodness by being generous, by keeping the precepts, by chanting and by meditating. And this chanting, this meditation, it's the act of giving our minds a place to rest, so that they recharge, so that they get energy for us to carry on cultivating our barami, for us to carry on abandoning greed, hatred and delusion, whether we can do that a lot or a little. But we just carry on doing this, and then in the end our minds will meet with peace, and we'll be able to lay aside all the heavy things there within the heart and feel lightness instead. And so this is bringing kusala, this skillfulness, to a state of completion. And doing this, developing skillfulness, what we're doing is building a ladder that can take our mind to purity. And just like that water that isn't mixed with any dye, that is clean and clear. And so the mind which isn't attached to anything is a mind which is bright and clean. But it's also natural for the mind that when it meets with a sense object, that it will cling on to that. And so this is why we need to train. This is why we need to endure and practice following the teachings of the fully self-awakened Buddha. So this time that we have now, we use this to be aware of our breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Or perhaps we can also bring up one chant within our heart and be reciting that as well. And we use this to bring our minds to peace. We'll do this for a period of time now, and then we'll do the circumambulation. And when we do that, we should walk in peace as well, with a sense of devotion and homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. So right now, by sitting in meditation, we are paying homage, paying respects through stilling our body and our speech and coming to sit in meditation. And so we carry on doing this, noting the breath, establishing our mindfulness here with this breath, with the recitation of a mantra or internal chanting. And we do this in order to bring the minds to peace.